Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into a question that sounds simple but has a surprisingly complicated answer. Who really invented sociology?
Now, if you've ever taken an intro class on the subject, you probably think you've got this one in the bag. There's always one name that comes up, the guy who's cemented in all the textbooks as the father of the field.
And that man is Auguste Comte. Yep, he's the one who gets all the credit. He coined the term sociology, and he had this really grand vision of studying society in a truly scientific way.
His big idea was something he called positivism. Basically, he believed that just like physicists figured out the laws of gravity, sociologists could uncover the universal laws that govern how all of our societies work and change over time.
He even came up with this theory that all societies evolve through three distinct stages. First we explain everything through gods and religion, then we move on to abstract philosophy, and finally, we reach the positive stage, where everything is based on scientific observation.
But what if I told you that this neat and tidy official story leaves out a huge, crucial chapter, one that started 5 centuries earlier?
Let me introduce you to Ibn Khaldun. He was an incredible 14th century Arab scholar who was systematically analyzing society, politics, and history a full 500 years before Comte was even born.
His absolute masterpiece, the Muqaddimah, wasn't just some intro to history. No, it was basically a blueprint for a whole new science of civilization, one built on looking at the actual evidence, on empirical observation, not just on abstract ideas.
And he argued that the rise and fall of entire civilizations came down to this one powerful concept he called Asabiyyah. Think of it as social cohesion or group solidarity. It's the invisible glue that holds a society together.
So when you put them side by side, it's pretty fascinating. While Comte was searching for these universal, almost mathematical laws, Khaldun was focused on observing actual historical cycles. You know, how that social glue, that Asabiyyah, strengthens and weakens over generations.
But believe it or not, Khaldun isn't the only major figure left out of the standard textbook. Even as sociology was getting its start in the West, key people, especially women, were being written right out of the story.
Which brings us to Jane Addams. She was an absolute trailblazer, an activist and intellectual in late 19th century Chicago. And for her, sociology wasn't just some stuffy academic exercise. It was a hands-on mission, out in the real world.
I mean, Addams wasn't just an academic. This woman was a force of nature. She co-founded the famous Hull House to help immigrant communities. She helped create the ACLU, and she even became the first American woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize.
Her community center, Hull House, was essentially a vast sociological laboratory. Seriously, she and her colleagues were pioneers in using things like statistical maps to study poverty and disease. She even taught classes in the University of Chicago's actual sociology department.
So, the big question is, why isn't she always listed as a primary founder? Well, as sociology tried really hard to become a more serious, theoretical, and, let's be honest, male-dominated field, her incredibly practical, hands-on work got relabeled. It was called social work, and it got pushed to the sidelines of the very discipline she helped build.
All of this brings us to a really key question. Beyond all this complicated history, what does sociology actually do? How does it help us see the world in a new way?
Well, a 20th century sociologist named Robert K. Merton gave us a brilliant tool for this. It's the difference between what he called manifest and latent functions.
So let's take an example, like our school system. The manifest function, that's the obvious intended purpose, is to educate kids, right? To teach them knowledge and skills. That's what we all say schools are for.
But a latent function, that's an unintended, kind of hidden consequence, might be that schools also end up reinforcing social inequality. They can act as this giant sorting mechanism, creating special networks and opportunities for some students while limiting them for others.
And that is what sociology does best. It gives us the tools to look right past the obvious stuff and start to see the deeper, often invisible structures and rules that are really shaping our lives.
So, when you get right down to it, the real history of sociology isn't just a straight line from one so-called father. It's so much richer. It's a discipline built on diverse, global ideas, from 14th century observation all the way to hands-on social reform in the streets of Chicago.
This sociological lens really does help us see our own world differently. So let me leave you with a final thought. Think about the apps on your phone. We know their manifest function is to connect us or entertain us, but what might be their latent,
hidden consequences on our society.